What I have here is a basic box that I built out of Poplar that I used to store a bunch of my measuring tools in. I outfitted it with some cork in the middle too, just to make sure everything had a little bit of a soft surface on it. I was left with some offcuts after this build, so I figured why not try to make a box with a lid? With all that said, let's go do it.
I still don't have a workbench yet, so right now I have a vise just clamped down to my workbench using an MDF and then 2 clamps you see on the side. Now these are actually offcuts from the box that I built, and I actually arranged them in a way so I can get sort of the grain flowing in the opposite direction, but we'll see how it turns out. I started by cutting the pins for the dovetail joint, and then used a chisel just to pare down the sides so I can have a little bit of room for my saw to cut down. And then eventually I used my coping saw to cut out the waste in the middle, and after all that I think I got a pretty good dovetail joint going over here. Next was working on the tails for the joint, so I marked it out with a pencil, having it traced all on the sides there, and then again cleaned it out with a coping saw, making sure I didn't cut the wrong area, and then eventually I had 2 pieces that somewhat fit together. A little bit of sanding made it work a lot better. Now this is the result of all my pieces finally cut. Now I can move on to the next step of gluing them together. Now earlier, since I labeled all the parts, it made the glue up a whole lot easier. All I had to do was match up which letters went with which letters and then glue them together, and I think this actually went pretty well. It actually had no mistakes when I was gluing them up. And what I did also too is I took one of my tri-squares just to level everything out, making sure that it went at a 90-degree angle. I had some other clamps, but I think this method worked very well. It kept at 90 degrees. The only difference was some of my pieces were a little bit crooked because they were offcuts, but in the end I got everything glued up all together and it started to look like a box, which was pretty cool. I was off by a 1/16 of an inch, but I think this is pretty good for my first box, so I was happy and ready to move on to the next step in building this. To add a bottom to the box, what I did, I measured out 2.5 by 3.5 along the side of my base so I can actually cut a piece with the router off of it so I can fit in another scrap piece that I had. This is actually my first time using the handheld router, and it was pretty interesting. I definitely got the hang of it after a while, but it took a while to get used to. I didn't actually clean it out that well with the router because I had the clamp in the middle, so I took a chisel just to pare down the sides to get it nice and straight. It did take a while to do this, so I actually went back to the router again and cleaned it up even more, and with the end result I got this nice little, well, not nice, but a square enough box I can put a base in. Now with that opened up, I can just measure down my scrap piece to make sure it fits up perfectly in this box, and I actually use my new crosscut sled, which makes straight cuts, so I'm very happy with that. I can get straight cuts with it, and now I have to clean it up with a chisel again, only because it was too straight and the inside wasn't straight enough. But with all that measuring, I can finally glue it in, and I finally had a box made, or at least almost a box made. I was just missing the top piece I had to work on. It took a little bit of hammering to get it in, and there were some gaps on the side, but that'll be something for a later time that I'm going to fix. Now on the top I'm doing a whole bunch of math just to make sure I get the right opening cut in so I can make a little lip for it to fit into the box. And if you want to see the math, it's all these fractions that I did a lot of managing and subtracting on here. And your math teachers are right, it does come in handy later on in life. Now with the router, what I did now is I just cut out a little round over on the edges, and I actually did it on the wrong side, so I have to do my measurements again on the other side. And now I use a straight bit just to finish off the lip of the edge, just so I can put this box and have it clamp in, and a little sanding help made it go in a whole lot easier. And this is the moment of truth, putting the box together to see if I finally have a lid. And I have a lid that closes, so this is actually a very exciting time. I built my first box with all 6 sides and with a dovetail joint too.
And here it is, a box with a lid that I can take on and off and I guess use this for my car keys. I will be sanding and finishing this box. That'll be in a later video though, but the pictures will be on Instagram, so you can follow that if you want to see the progress. But I'll see you guys in the next video.